farm, and especially with the climate movement and everything going on within with global warming and everything, I knew that as a farmer, I had the power to do something to change it. So that's when I really became interested in regenerative agriculture. What is regenerative agriculture? Regenerative agriculture basically it promotes working with nature rather than fighting against it and trying to conquer it. So you're looking at things like soil health and bringing your soil back to get it as healthy as you can. Conventional farming has really done a number on soil health, especially doing things like applying herbicides like Roundup, or plowing the field all the time. There are so many different things living in the soil. There's soil animals living in the soil that are vital to keep that soil alive. Because when we think of soil, we tend to think of only plants living in the soil. It's not just plants. There's an entire ecosystem living within that soil. So as regenerative farmers, we're working with that ecosystem to keep it alive, and not just to keep it alive, to make it flourish. So yeah, another point of that is carbon sequestration. What we want to do is, if we want to help the environment, one thing we can do as farmers is take the carbon that has been released into the air by fossil fuels, and we can use our plants to sequester it. So one of the key things in doing that is promoting that soil health, because all of the fungi and the bacteria and everything that's living in that soil will make for deeper roots, which will sequester carbon more. So that's just kind of a little quick thing on regenerative agriculture. Also, it will help in reducing inputs. It's not the same as organic, whereas you're not allowed to use any inputs because of certain regulations with organic. Regenerative agriculture is actually a scale, which is really cool, because if you are a farmer that is new to it, you don't need a certain period before you can declare yourself a regenerative farmer. You can do it incrementally and then increase it every year. So by using things like compost, you can actually give more nutrients to the soil and help the plants be able to defend themselves, and fortify the plants, make them stronger, so that you don't have to use as much herbicides the next year or pesticides, so that the plants can actually defend themselves. So yeah, and also because we are farmers, we're seeing the effects of climate change. We're on the front lines of it. So by increasing soil health, that helps with water absorption, and we can actually hold water more in case of flood. And the puddles won't stay on top of the soil, it'll actually get absorbed. And also, since there's more air pockets in the soil, the plants can go deeper for water if they're in case of drought. So it works both ways. So when the slides show it, this is my dad, my uncle, and I. We were at the Prairie Organics conference, and like I said, I'm also an artist, so I like to really implement my artistic abilities when it comes to farming. So this is just a little, it's called the pavouk, which is actually made of straw, because I think when bringing arts and farming together, I think the key connector there is nature. So I work with natural elements in my art.
Sorry, Anna, I'm just gonna cut in there. I just can't see your presentation.
Oh, you can't see it. Okay.
No.
It's showing for me. Activity.
And just as Anna's doing that, I just want to go through again. Well, there's a few new people that joined. Just letting you guys know, please be respectful that letting your microphones as their background noise. There will be time at the end to ask Anna some questions. So keep all those questions and those thoughts kind of in the back of your mind. There will be lots of time. So sorry, Anna, go for Right. And we can see your slide. Yeah, we can see your slides now.
So yeah, there's our logo in the back, which is buckwheat here. And like I said, this is the art that I was talking about. So bringing elements of nature from farming and connecting it with art is one of the things that I'm pretty passionate about. So like I said, I'm also a pilot. So this is one of our farms. One of our main crops is buckwheat. Buckwheat is actually not in the wheat family. It's not a grass. It's part of the rhubarb family, which is why it's red when it's cut and dry. It's gluten-free and super, super nutritious. We love it, and we think that it's a great thing for the world. Tying into regenerative agriculture, it's actually doesn't need any herbicides because as it grows, it's a really fast grower and a broadleaf plant. So that means that the leaves actually cover the places that weeds would grow. So as it's growing up, it's blocking out the sun for the weeds. So you have much less weeds than you would with other conventional crops like wheat, which is super great. We are actually in the midst of starting a mill. So we'll be running this so that we can not only produce our own product, and instead of selling to Japan or to the States, we'll be able to sell it locally, which is a huge part of, I think, the local movement of reducing travel and transit and all of those costs when it comes to the climate movement is staying local and keeping local, and being able to process our product locally is super, super important in that movement. So that's part of it. Another great part of growing buckwheat is when we were dealing more with Japan, we got to go to Japan and meet with the buyers. So, it's cool that I got to experience both parts of it. I am really putting an emphasis on the local movement because we have shifted from there, but I did get to really benefit from the international trade of it. Yeah. Just go here. This is when we did go to Japan last year. We went to actually purchase seeds because there are certain seeds that will grow faster and be more beneficial. So there's perks in everything, but I think when it comes to climate change, and something that I'm really an advocate for is everything in moderation and not in excess. Anyway, so where was I? Number 5 is the different scales of farms is something that is also really interesting. I have a neighbor who's actually running his own CSA, which is community supported agriculture. So what he does is grows vegetables, an entire garden, enormous garden of vegetables that he sells shares at the beginning of the year, so he knows the exact number of people he'll be growing for, so that he can calculate everything. So each person pays I don't know, like $600 at the beginning of the season, and they receive vegetables every week from spring to fall time. This is one movement that's really taken hold in Canada, I know for sure. It's super great because it cuts out the middleman. People have direct contact with their farmers, and they are able to actually see how everything is grown. They talk to their farmer, they're connected. It's not just some random person that, far off on the other side of the world. It's actually somebody that and you can understand how this person is and how they would probably grow, and they care about what they're growing, and they care about you as a person. So it really brings it full circle in this movement where this you reconnect with the person that is supplying your food, and I think it's super important. Connection is huge. Yeah. So another thing sorry, I just lost my track here. When it comes to women in agriculture, which I am one, I have been very lucky to been supported by my family. I'm an only child, so it's either me who inherits the farm or no one. So I didn't really have a choice in that matter. I did. I don't think my dad would have forced me to take the farm if I didn't want to. He would have been okay with that, which is also nice. It takes a lot of pressure off. But like I said, when I came back from traveling, I wanted to embrace everything I had. So now I'm looking at how to do it in my own way, which is integrating things like local agriculture and art. And I think that community is a huge part of it. Once you have a really good community of people that you can not only rely on, you can bounce ideas off of, and just support you. It's huge, and the farming community is so great. It's so great. I'm the women's representative in Manitoba for the National Farmers Union, and this organization, I absolutely can't say enough about it. It is such a progressive organization. They care about, the rights of people. They care about, you as a person and not as an entity. The women in ag, I told them that I was doing this, and they were super happy for me. And I asked them what's something is that they would that they feel is the best thing about women in ag, and they said that this community is for sure it. And also, as a farmer, as a woman farmer especially, you are meant to not only be a farmer, a mechanic, a welder, an agronomist, so studying plants, really knowing your plants, a marketer, because obviously you have to sell your things, but you're also taking care of the kids, you're cooking, you're everything at the same time, which is not to say that men don't also do that. But I think as a woman, you're just inherently, you're closer to it because kids are dependent on you. Something like this can be really liberating because you're doing this and you're controlling it, which is also at the same time very stressful. But at the end of the day, it makes you a really resourceful person, and that's, I think, huge. So for anyone that's starting out there as a farmer, you don't necessarily have to have ever farmed before. You can, one of the women that I'm part of the NFU with, she had never farmed in her life. Her family they grew up in the city, and there's no history of farming. So now she's the president of the Women's Caucus, and she has her own cattle farm with her kids, and absolutely loves it. So that's just to show that, you don't have to be someone like me that grew up in it. Anyone can do it. And so for the people that are there that want to start out as farmers, there are loans and resources, such as the women's entrepreneur loan, such as the women's entrepreneur loans, the young entrepreneur loans. Yeah, so there are resources out there, not only through that, but through organizations such as the National Farmers Union that are there to help you through things like this. So yeah, at the end of the day, the best part of farming is seeing the literal fruit of your harvest and seeing the steps of growing from the very seed up until harvest, and seeing that transformation, and it's just so cool to watch because it's something that you did. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions. Let me know.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, the floor is open. We have about 10 minutes for some question and answers. Please let us know. You can turn on your mic and we can, Anna's open for asking questions and talking and getting some conversations. Does anybody have any questions? Not yet, but okay. So how about this? I'll get the ball rolling, Anna. How about this?
Sure.
Some, just obviously, what does maybe a little bit more as people understanding, I'm not sure if everybody's levels of understanding their farming and whatnot. What would you say, I know it's your farm, so how many hours a day do you say that you like work on your farm?
Oof.
Like actually on the farm compared to maybe doing some paperwork or anything else about doing anything else kind of administrative?
For sure. Right now it's seeding, so it's a very busy season. Seeding and harvest are definitely the times that are the most important because you're very dependent on the weather. So you want to get it done while the weather's good as quickly as possible, just in case that the weather turns. So right now we're out there, we start 8 o'clock in the morning and we're there until sunset. Probably until I was on the field last night until 11. So even after the sunset, I had the lights on. Yeah, it's not easy right now, but I don't know, I like it. I also have an office job, so it's a nice change from being in front of a computer all day to being on the field and just being able to drive the tractor and I know I listen to an audiobook while I'm there or listen to music or it's really relaxing. It's something that I like.
That's cool. Is there, how many people, I guess, would you say kind of, obviously it's you and your dad and your uncle. So is that kind of how many people kind of work on your farm, or do you have more people that kind of help support you guys too?
Right now we also have 2 hired help. So 2 people, and then during harvest, there are usually the 3 of us and then 3 hired people.
So is there if somebody wanted to, try to be, how to get hired on a farm, is there any skills or anything that somebody should be looking for or be learning ahead of time that maybe they can get prior to being hired on the farm?
Well, I would say go and just, if you can ask somebody to even ride on the tractor, ride on the combine, get a ride to actually get an actual feel of what it is and what you're doing. Because I mean, for us, we're not going to hire somebody that's never even seen a tractor or has never been on a tractor. So I would say that's your first step, is to actually go to a farm, see what it is, like just follow somebody around all day. They might let you do a couple things, maybe let you drive the combine, steer the combine while they're with you. But just, I would just say go and experience what it is like first.
Okay, cool. I guess some of the other things that maybe people are thinking about, especially now, is how do you manage all of your stress? You're busy, obviously, as we can see. You have a job, plus you're managing, helping with the farm and whatnot. So how do you manage that? And what are some tools that you use to kind of help yourself through that?
Meditation, honestly. Like sometimes I just have to take a break, and otherwise I feel like my head's going to explode, and I just go for a walk in the bush and and go to the river, put my feet in the creek and just relax for, even if it's for half an hour. It like recharges my batteries. It's super important.
Oh, that's awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? I felt like I was just asking. Does anybody else have any questions that want to jump in and ask Anna. Told us a little bit about buckwheat and all that kind of. I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting. I'm putting the pressure on.
No worries. I know I'm also shy, so I'm also shy to ask questions. There's no thing as a stupid question.
No, it's better to ask and ask.
Totally.
Trying to think of. Okay, so you guys aren't selling in stores yet, right? Like
No,
you're
not
not. Not yet. Okay, so you guys that's what you're milling your process to be done soon. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Right now we're dehulling, so that means that we take the outside shell off of the buckwheat. The outside shell is black, so you can't really eat it because it's like it's just a shell. And then once you dehull it, you see those little there it is. That's what the buckwheat looks like. So yeah, and then you can either eat it like that. So you make kasha, which is like a type of porridge or cereal. You can use it in soup. You can use it as a replacement for quinoa. Not as a replacement, but I mean something like rice or quinoa or, those kind of grains. You can also mill it into flour. People around the world make things like soba noodles. Soba is actually buckwheat in Japanese, which is why we're called fixed soba. You can make soba noodles. You can make, in France, they make galettes, which are a type of crepes. Really famous in Brittany, in France. They eat them while they're drinking apple cider. In India, they make chapati, which are a type of like flatbread. So yeah, so many things you could do with buckwheat.
So what would you say, for people that maybe don't know, how would you describe buckwheat, the taste and texture maybe?
So it's a little bit nutty, and a little, I would say it's on the savory side. Although in Ukraine, people eat it as a cereal in the morning and add sugar, so you can actually have it sweet. But I would say it's more on the savory side. Texture, I would say it's similar to quinoa, but bigger. So it's got a somewhat of a crunch to it, but also it's quite soft. Yeah, it's really good. You should try it. I mean, a lot of people don't they don't seem to like, oh, that's kind of different, but I don't know. I think that if you have it once, you're like, ah, okay. Twice, you're like, Third time, you're like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah, no, for sure. I want to incorporate it more in kind of how I eat too. It's just actually doing it as well, right? So it's yeah, especially because when you're trying to incorporate other what you're eating and that like kind of what's on the right, that farm to fork, and how you incorporate what you're doing on the farm and what you're eating every day. And I think that's important. And like you said, community is huge, and that community and that local feel where you're getting your food from and knowing the people that you're getting your food from. So understanding that piece too. So that's huge too. So
Totally.
yeah. So does anybody else have any questions? Did you, Anna, have anything else that you wanted to share with that maybe you didn't mention that you wanted to share before we kind of head off?
I don't know, like just I would say if you're interested in growing things, you're interested in plants, and you don't have to be you don't have to be like us. You don't have to be a huge farmer. You can start with your garden, and if you like it, you could grow that into a CSA. It's there's so many different scales you can do, and even if you do it as a hobby, you could sell your vegetables. Why not? But I think that if you care about the environment, learn about it. Learn how it actually works, and in that way you can see how you can actually help it and improve it, and all the things that are connected to it, all the animals, all the organisms, all the different plants. yeah, it's a really great way to see how you can actually participate in making the world a better place.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thank you again for Anna for the presentation today. And thank you for everyone for joining us. Please make sure that you check out the other exhibitors that are happening this afternoon and the other presentations, as there's lots going on all day. And so hopefully this is an exciting new journey that we have. So thanks again, Anna.
Thank you. Have a good one, everybody. Good luck.
You too.